Hey everyone, Simon here with Top Tennis Training, and in this video I want to show you how to hit an ATP style forehand. There are a few things that you want to focus on to actually hit an ATP style forehand. And the first thing is, because our swing is more compact, because our swing stays on the right side of our body, we have to use the body segment to generate more power. So this means the legs, this means the trunk, and this means that coil and uncoil. So the first step to hitting an ATP style forehand is to have a great unit turn, that great coil at the start of the swing. So in that ready position, I'm waiting with my forehand grip, and as soon as I recognize the ball's coming to my forehand, my initial step will be turning and coiling my trunk muscles. So I want to feel my trunk muscles stretching from this position here. So coiling up the upper body and really storing the energy in the trunk muscles. What this will do is later on, when you start that forward phase of the swing and you actually uncoil, you'll have a massive amount of power from your abdominal muscles, in particular the oblique muscles, the side abdominal muscles responsible for rotation of the upper body. So that's the first thing that we want to focus on, having that great coil. And to really zone in on this, take away the ball, take away hitting against somebody, just do shadow swings from that ready position. You can do this in front of a mirror if possible, and all you're doing is coiling the upper body as soon as you want to start that swing. So split step, coil, split step, coil. And when I'm turning, I'm feeling my abdominal muscles really squeezing and coiling as I'm doing that turn. So once again, split step, coil, split step, coil, split step, coil. Step number 2 is then keeping the racket always on the right side of my body. I'm going to show you a drill how to actually ingrain that into your game. Now if you're watching me from this position, if I take my racket behind my back, you'll see the racket now is on the left side of my body. For an ATP style forehand, we don't want this to happen. What we want to happen is we keep the racket on the right side of our body the entire time. So instead of having the racket come behind, I'm keeping the racket on this side of my body. And once again, I can do this simply by doing shadow swings. So now instead of just the coil, I'm also going to have the coil and the power position. So split step, coil, power position. Split step, coil, power position. And you might be thinking, what is the power position? Now if we look at most players on the ATP Tour, when they reach that back position, they have the racket head higher than the grip. So the racket head is in that position like so. The non-hitting hand, this is the left hand if you're right-handed, is across the body because of that coil and because it's helped with the preparation. Now it's in line with a baseline more or less. And I have that full body turn and I'm loading up on the legs. Now this normally means loading up on your outside leg. This is the right leg. So this might be for the open or the semi-open stance. But even if you're stepping in with the neutral stance, you'll still have the body weight on the back leg in that position. And then you'll step forward with this left leg and you'll have that weight transfer on the way forward. So once again, we're looking at racket head being higher than the grip level, rackets on the side of my body, left hand's across my body, and I'm storing up the energy on that back leg. If you think about it in terms of a clock, if I'm looking forward at my opponent or at the net, that would be 12 o'clock. 6 o'clock would be right behind me, directly behind me. Now when we get to this power position, you can go to 4 or 5 o'clock on that imaginary clock. So let's imagine this is a clock now, and facing you, facing the camera, would be 12 o'clock. When I take my racket into that power position, I want to keep my racket at either 4 or 5 o'clock. Some ATP players like Djokovic will take it back to around 6 o'clock, even Wawrinka sometimes does this. But in general, you'll want to keep it around 4 or 5 o'clock. Now if you pass 6 o'clock, that then becomes like a WTA style forehand where the racket breaks the left side of the body. So now I'm facing 12 o'clock with my racket head. As I coil up the upper body, I'm now at 2 o'clock, I'm now at 3 o'clock. Around 2 or 3 o'clock, you'll separate the hands. So I'm turning, I'm separating the hands now. And now I'm around 4 to 5 o'clock with my right hand, and my left hand is either at 2 or 3 o'clock. So I'm in that position, in the power position of my forehand. Now another way you can work on this ATP style forehand to keep the racket on the right side of the body, all you do is shadow those forehands on the net. So all I'm doing is shadowing my forehands, and if I end up touching the net with my racket, I know I've gone behind my body's line in that imaginary 6 o'clock position. So I'm in that position here. If I hit the net, I know I've gone too far. So it's a simple way for you to feel that connection on the right side of your body only. You're only swinging on the right side of your body. If you're a left-handed player, it will be the exact same thing. Now I like to use the neutral stance when I'm doing this drill. If I have the open stance, it's quite easy for me to not actually break the body's line, but because of the racket lag position, end up hitting the net. Whereas with the neutral stance, it's easier for me. Even when I have the racket lag, it's away from my body, it's away from the net. So once again, in that position, and I can do hundreds of these in a very short amount of time to really incorporate that ATP style swing on the right side of my body. So once again, from this angle, and this is a great drill if you're a junior player. This is a great drill if you're working with junior players, if you're a coach or you're a tennis parent. Get your kids to come up, if they're tall enough of course, and simply shadow their forehand on the right side of their body. And before we get into the final step, the last step of the ATP style forehand, I just want to say, if you want to download our free forehand guide, that's our PDF to hitting an ATP style forehand, I'll leave the link below this video. So all you have to do is click on that link, enter your email address, and we'll send you that free PDF right away. So the last step is now you've had that coil, you're using the body, you're using the legs, you've now kept the racket on the right side, and now the final step is to get that racket lag as much as possible prior to contact. Now what is lag? So after the power position, we then have the racket dropping down. Some coaches will call this the pat the dog position. From here, you now have the racket head lagging behind the grip and the wrist. So the bottom of my racket ends up pointing towards the oncoming ball. So in this position, you'll see Federer, you'll see Nadal, you'll see most of the big forehands. Now there'll be variations. You'll have some players like a Federer who will have his arm extended all the way or close to full extension. And you'll have other players like Djokovic with their elbow bent. You have those two variations. You can have the extended arm or you can have the bent arm. And either one is fine as long as you're achieving some degree of lag. What you don't want to happen is to get to that position and then be stiff on this forward face, because look at what happens to my racket now. It's coming in line with my wrist and I won't have much power, and that indicates that I'm very tight, I'm very tense, and I'm very stiff with the wrist, and this will cost me power instead of actually giving me power. So in that position from here, now I start to uncoil, and at the same time you can see what happens with my racket. It lags back behind the grip and behind my hand. In this position now, I'll then end up hitting the ball out in front of me. Could be with the extended arm or with the bent arm. I want to still make contact out in front. There's many variations of the forehand finish that we've covered in other videos as well. Now, to achieve that racket lag, you have to be loose, you have to have the right biomechanics, and also you want to work on it. Now, some players ask me, is racket lag natural? Yes, it's natural for some players just have it. I have some 4-year-olds, some 5-year-olds who get into a very good racket lag position, and I've never taught them that position. But they have the right biomechanics and they're using the body in the correct way, so they achieve this racket lag quite easily and quite naturally. For other players, you'll have to work on it. You'll have to ingrain yourself to get into that position. That doesn't mean you want to get to that position and then force your wrist into that back position, because then you're creating tension. You want to be loose into that position, and a great drill to actually incorporate this is to simply take a ball, and instead of imagining hitting with your strings, you're now going to hit the ball with the bottom of the racket. I'm in that power position, I'm going to drop the ball, and instead of hitting the ball with the strings, I'm hitting it with the butt cap of the racket like so. So power position and butt cap. It might even be your palm or the heel pad of your hand, that's fine as well. Power position, hit with the bottom of the racket. Here, here. And you want to achieve this in a loose and relaxed way. Don't be stiff when you're doing this. Try to be loose, try to be relaxed, and still achieve that actual lag and making contact with the butt cap. Now, the next step to this drill is to hit one with the butt cap of the racket, followed by an actual forehand with the strings. So it's going to look like so. Power position, butt cap, followed by power position, strings. Power position, butt cap, power position, strings. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever we release a new video. If you want more help with your forehand, download our free forehand guide. But if you want to get really deep into the forehand, this includes the entire mechanics of the forehand, the footwork stances, the different ways you can produce more power, more spin, or to hit a flatter shot, the different grips, and all areas of the forehand. We have an entire forehand course. It's called the Forehand Revolution, and I'll also leave the link to that course beneath this video. Signing off, Simon from TTT. All the best, guys, and see you soon. Stay safe.